Ladies and gentlemen, can I please have your attention?
What time is it?
I've just been handed an urgent and horrifying news story.
Now Myers to win the league, yes!
And I need all of you to stop what you're doing and listen.
Werewolves of London.
Cannonball!
Well, hello and welcome to the Below the Rim show, a show dedicated to the BBL. I'm Pabs, been podcasting for about 5 years, maybe more, and I'm joined as always by my main man Ads. Ads, how you doing and how long's it been, mate?
About 5 years, something like that.
Yeah.
It's been. We must go back to our first ever pod together, Pabs, and find what the date on it was.
I got it somewhere. I think might have been 2016. And of course, we're joined by our northern correspondent, the brave-hearted Mr. Grant Young. How many years you been at it, sir?
I can't claim to be anywhere near as long as you guys, that's for sure.
It's got to be a couple of years, though, isn't it?
This is season 3 for me for Rocks On Podcast.
That's still longer than some.
It's probably the same, unfortunately. It's probably the same.
Anyway, we'll get to that, I'm sure, at some point. We've not got the full squad. This is the beauty of doing a podcast the way we do it. Things come up, life comes first, and Io can't be with us this evening. Josh is still in Tbilisi doing his commentary thing. Of course, he's been doing the round, or more than doing the round.
Mixing with the stars.
Yeah, he's been on social media.
Name
with
drops everywhere.
Huge Adam Sandler quote and Bo Cruz.
That
and
was
all that.
brilliant.
It was awesome, wasn't it?
It's absolutely brilliant. I've been showing people today. Actually, it's like much love to the great Josh Bett.
And of course, Mr. Nicholson is coaching this evening. Although he finishes about now as we record this, it's Tuesday night at 9 o'clock. But I guess if he joins, he joins. If he doesn't, he doesn't. So what we're going to do is we're going to postpone the 5 teams we've got left to talk about our expectations. I've got the list from the previous 5. We're working on a kind of makeshift league table, if you like, with all the interchangeable pieces and players and teams that will be fighting over various spots in that league table. It's actually, although we've predicted quite a vast range of different positions, looking at it, we could see potentially who we think are going to be fighting out for the playoff spot, for the top 4, for whatever. But we'll finish that off next week. So apologies if you're expecting the 5 remaining teams, alphabetically anyway, the bottom half. We're going to postpone that. Instead, we're going to talk a little bit about GB. There's been a question on Twitter related to GB, and I think it's kind of, that definitely has done the rounds on Twitter. That's sort of on everybody's lips after how things have unfolded for that team. We've got a few bits. We're going to sort of head to Twitter a bit later on as well and have a look at some posts and talk about those. We've got some news from Ads, which we'll get to as well, and his successful UK corporate games basketball event that took place last weekend. We'll get to that most definitely, and maybe try and get you a picture of his lovely medal. But we'll get to that. But
Medal in Jersey.
I didn't know if we wanted to start with this. I don't know if we'll start with this or not, but we are going to obviously talk about the comments from the BBL show on their 100th episode. I've not gone out of my way to, but I kind of made some notes and have kind of a monologue
So you mean you have gone out of your way
to go through? Well, I was sat on the bus in
I've
different.
had some time.
Yeah, exactly. I was sat on the bus in a couple of changeovers and started to jot down a few things, and before you know it, you've got a list of shite to go through. Let's start with GB. Let's talk about GB. Now, I'll be 100% honest, and I don't know if that's because of the way I was introduced to the game and the kind of importance that's put on league and domestic stuff, essentially from the NBA as much as anything else. I never really have followed the international game that closely. This weekend, not this week, over the course of the last week, it's really been hard to follow the game because I've been at work and all the games have been while I've been at work. I've caught the odd couple of minutes here and there, and early on in games when we actually haven't looked that bad, and then by the time it's transpired the end of the game, we've lost by 20, and the rants on Twitter are fairly consistent that it's and I think I did comment on it as well, that I was a bit sick of the excuses from people that were making excuses that were probably in a position to do a little bit better. I'll just read out from Rob Napper on Twitter, Coach Rob K. He's asked a question. I know it's not BBL related, but we do have a few BBL players on the GB basketball team at Eurobasket. Could we do some sort of special on the international basketball and the laughing stock that it makes us? Not the players specifically, he says, not the players, but the organisation. I mean, we're not going to dedicate the entire show to it, but we are obviously going to look at it now. And I know, Ads, my man, you've always been a bit of a GB correspondent, as it were, and you've your press pass and whatnot. You've always had one, haven't you? GB specifically.
Yeah, I mean, I've done more work with the women's team
than
the men's, to be fair. But yeah, when I can get the opportunity to go do the men's, I've done it, and I've been to some pretty monumental games. Like there was a game in Newcastle a couple of years back, which I think was a qualifier for this, where they beat Germany, and in front of a packed house, and they were absolutely incredible. And they played well in the games around that as well. And the roster, really, when you look at it, is pretty much the same group. The thing that's different is that Nate Ranking's been back at the head coach position. And
is that? Can I ask you? Is that the only? I mean, is that the key difference? Because, like you said, and we really got behind that little window into obviously qualification to get into the competition they were in now, and they did beat Germany, and they did, was it Montenegro as well? I can't remember now. They got a string of really good results.
Beat France, beat Germany,
and like you say, it's the same squad. What's the difference in the preparation for that compared to what they've done now?
I mean, you could talk about this all day. I mean, if you're looking at it, basically, you're going, okay, well, the head coach, Nate Ranking, who hadn't really done that many games as head coach, is coming for the tournament. Expectations would have been high, and they've bombed out. They've lost 5 games. They've got 1 more left, or is it 4 games? And basically, it's a meaningless game because it's a done deal. So you've got to be going, well, clearly the different coaching method has had some sort of impact. But I mean, where do you start with the problems that GB have as a country? Because if you look around, at these other teams, they don't just have 2 practices before going into a major tournament. They don't all get together as a group a couple of weeks before or a week before and just go, yeah, let's go. Other countries put money into their national team. Other countries, they want to win these things. I mean, look how many NBA players are in there, for God's sake. Spain have got NBA players. The Giannis are playing, for God's sake. And I mean, I think it speaks volumes, the fact that neither of the Giannis brothers played the other night against GB.
Well, didn't need to, did they? Yeah.
Well, no, I mean, and that speaks volumes because their coaching staff and probably Giannis himself have probably looked at it and gone, I'd rather not risk an injury. I'm sure you guys have got it without me. And then they did. They killed him. And it's sort of embarrassing, really, because there was a bit of hype before it about, GB are going to play against Giannis. And I was doubtful that he would play, to be honest, because I was pleasantly surprised when it was announced he was playing altogether, because these NBA guys, especially one as big as Giannis, you're sort of thinking, well, I wonder if they'll do it. And fair play to him for doing it, because he's a very proud Greek. It's the only way I can describe it. I mean, if you watch documentaries about him, he's a very patriotic guy. He loves the country that introduced him to the sport and got him where he is with the sport. And good on him for doing it. But megastars like
that country is passionate about the sport at every level.
It's huge. And the fact that without him, they still are a very dominant team speaks volumes. So he could even said, well, they don't need me, so why would I give up my summer to do this? But he obviously wanted to do it. So good on him and his brother. But yeah, it's so many things. You look at the GB roster and you read down that list of players and you're going, that's a nice team on any day of the week. That is a nice team. You've got some great players that have in big bucks overseas in Miles Hessen, Ovi Soko, and the guys that are coming back, Luke Nelson, Tariq Phillip. And you've got veterans like Dan Clark. Carl Wheatl's a good player. You hear much from him until it's GB time because he plays his ball in Italy. So, they've got this really good team. Teddy Okereke, Danny Clark. And you're just sort of going, well, it can't be. It's not that it's a bad team and a bad roster and bad players. It's just we're preparing for it for 2 days for Eurobasket. Just isn't going to do it.
No.
They've got to find a way to fund it so that they can do a month's training camp.
Yeah,
much like I'm sure the England football team do. They've got to do something, and I don't know who.
No, well, this is what I was just about to say. You say they've got to do something. Can either of you explain the kind of governing bodies of British basketball?
Well, I think it's more a governing body of UK sport and Sport England in a lot of ways. Sport Scotland, whatever group it is, because whilst basketball underachieves, they're not interested in putting any money into it. It's as simple as that. If you watch the documentary that was on recently about the Olympics and how quickly they pulled funding out of basketball when they didn't leave the group stage, it says it all. And the British public, the British public, those that call the shots with where finance for British sport goes, it's almost like it's treated like a business, which I guess it is, but it's all target related. Are they going to medal? Are they going to do anything? Are we going to look good at the end of it? Is the bottom line.
Grant,
really?
Do you know who does what and who's in charge of this?
I had a bit of a rant about this on Twitter either yesterday or before. The issue is, for the current GB setup, there was that coup a few years ago where board meetings changed and Basketball England, Basketball Scotland, Basketball Wales all decided to we don't want GB anymore in that sense. We'll fund it kind of. That's why the under-20s has disappeared, because none of the home nations want to fund it. And they've all probably are, without really noticing it, from a GB point of view, kind of killed the national team's progression. Look at the comments from the women last year or the year before when they did so well. It's really easy to blame, I think, Nate Ranking because he's not been around, because he's not been about. We've not had much preparation. Mark Stuttle did such a good job in the qualies before. But when you hear comments like they've had something like 10 days together, of which the majority of the guys have been travelling, that's not enough. They're talking about the biggest competition that GB will probably get to. We're never going to make a World Cup of basketball in this current state. You're talking about the biggest competition that GB can probably get to, and we've underprepared. We've let down the players massively. You've let down spectators. There's been issues with GB since its reincarnation before the 2012 Olympics. You've seen that with coaches sitting in the stand and board members sitting on the bench at the Olympics. You've seen it since then when guys are having to pay for themselves. You've seen it. I went to a couple of games when they had up in Glasgow, and GB are just rubbish, or were rubbish at promoting events. They're doing really well for Newcastle, but let's be honest, the Newcastle basketball public just love it.
Yeah.
So you don't, and then obviously seen how the pictures and videos and stuff of how many Latvians, you've had the Greeks there, and these guys will travel for basketball. They're proper basketball cultures. I get that, but I just think that we've just let ourselves down. The governance of the boards and how many different people are there without really a drive of let's make GB the pinnacle it can be. We've got so many guys now playing in good leagues, so many guys coming back home to play and making our home leagues better. And we've just kind of badly let them down. Like, you go through the results, like I've got them here. We lost by 29 points to Ukraine. Okay, they've got a couple of NBA guys. We've lost by, 21 to Croatia. Okay, Croatia have another brilliant array of NBA stars. We've lost to 16 or whatever it is to Greece. Greece minus 2 out of 3 Antetokounmpos, but still have Nick Kalathis. We've then today, and let's be honest, did we think of ourselves or as our league getting destroyed by 32 points to Estonia? And you look through it, the same guys are leading the scoring, Miles Hessen, Luke Nelson, and you're like, these guys are probably just through pride, whatever else they're able to play. We've got Italy tomorrow, which, as Ads has said, is a non-event kind of game. And you just wonder, why do we let this happen and not expect... And you know what? I'm actually quite glad that this Eurobasket's happened, because as a sport, we've probably needed this. But you know what? Another rocket up our arse to try and go, what's going on? Are we just going to be... Like, can you see GB getting relegated to like Division B or whatever we call it these days, or 4th seeds or 5th seeds in pools with some of the top nations, which is great for a spectacle. But we all want GB to do well. We all want these guys to want to compete for GB. I've always been amazed that we've never taken our naturalised player spot. There's some guys turning out for all sorts of countries that are either not Polish, not from North Macedonia. They're lucky if they've stepped in the National League and played for them. Why have we never done that? Imagine someone like Roman Fletcher.
I can tell you one reason they've never done it is because there's nobody wants to.
Or we've not done it since obviously.
We were quite close as GB. We were quite
used to do it.
Well, did used to. Alton Bird played for England, and
that's what I mean. It's like before.
Well, Lol Deng as well played as that person.
Yeah, I mean Tony Dorsey played for England because it's like Grant says. Why aren't we using more of these naturalised things? But then you go back to a couple of years ago when Pop Spencer Bonsu and Luol Deng did a series of podcasts where they were in conversation with one another. There's one that's absolutely fascinating where they're talking about the Olympics and what happened and what the hoops they had to jump through to get in there, and how it was only the home nation because they were the home nation that they did squeeze in. But then they go on to talk about the incident where Pops had applied for a job within Basketball England. I think it was in a director position because his sister, of course, Benny Bonsu, who's an absolute legend, by the way, is on the board. This is the
same Pops who's involved at Washington Wizards, isn't it?
Yeah.
We've got guys involved.
Well, he's executive level.
Yeah.
And the guy played top level in Europe and played in the NBA for a number of years. And they told him that he wasn't qualified to do the job. And it's like, well, it's that thing where when he was filling out his CV, you'd almost want to just put, just press Wikipedia. You know what I mean? Put my name in.
We're saying that we don't use that slot and we don't utilise players, but I feel like it's more players don't want to come and do it. Like we were on the verge of having Prince Ibeh, who was playing for the Raiders that season, big centre. He was born in London. He qualified to play for GB, and he chose to play for Rwanda instead and say no thanks. I'm good.
Yeah.
He almost wasn't willing to jump through all the hoops. It was easier for him just to go to Rwanda and play for Rwanda, so he did that.
Yeah, but
and I feel like that's the case.
There is a lot of jumping through hoops.
What's the name? The lad who went in the draft.
Oh, Jeremy Shan.
Jeremy Sochan, is it? Yeah.
Sochan, yeah.
This is the key. Now, there are two things to this. One is his mum was a Polish international basketball player, so he has got like deep links to playing international basketball for Poland because of his mother. However, we had him here. He's seen how the system works, and I don't think it's a very good advert for British basketball that he doesn't play British basketball, and he would rather play somewhere else. I think these are the guys that we need to be, making it easy for to play.
It's very, very difficult and complicated. I know that on the women's side, there's always been a problem of having your naturalised player because Carly Samuelson is obviously just an out-and-out superstar, so,
because that's the reason Kennedy Leonard's not been able to play.
That's why Kennedy Leonard's not been able to play, and I know that my good friend Sam Roscoe, who is British and her parents are British, but she holds an Australian passport because it's where she grew up. She's been capped for GB, but only in a game where Carly wasn't available. Right. So the rules are very, very hard because, I talked to Sam about it at great length because it's like, well, both your parents are English. They just emigrated and you were born in Australia, but your dual passport, you're more English than you are Australian if you want to look at it from a bloodline point of view. So what's the problem? But it is a problem because, I've heard people make slurs before about the women's game where it's like, well, for a British team, you don't hear a lot of British accents because you got Ailey Simpson, who again is Australian, well, half Australian. You got Rachel van der Waal, who's half Canadian. But what do you do with it? I mean, the men's is a different one. The one I was referred back to as well with Luol Deng is that after the Olympics, when he, obviously he played and everything, but nothing was done to try to do what he wanted to do in terms of promoting the game. Now, he started the Deng camp, which was a huge success. I don't think that's even going anymore, but that was a big deal to a lot of guys. If you got selected to Deng, you really were elite. Now, look at what Luol's done. He's gone to Africa, and what he's done for the sport out there is incredible.
Didn't he say specifically he didn't want to work in British basketball anymore?
Yeah, because that's where it sort of sends you.
Like, don't call me. I'm not playing for you again.
Amici had a similar thing, if you remember, many years ago. And the problem is that British basketball, and look at what's happened this week with this podcasting thing. We're going to war on Twitter because of podcasts, and people are getting this on it. And I'm with you guys. It's like, hold on a minute, what? Yeah. How long have we been doing this? How influential have we been? But anyway, there's that mentality in British basketball where it's ours, and nobody can come in. And it's like, you've got to get over it. You're happy to celebrate with guys make it to the NBA and this, that, and the other. But then you're not sitting back and going, but they don't seem to want to have anything to do with us. It's like with the Luol Deng thing. Look at what African basketball's doing now. It's huge. And the talent coming out of that is incredible. And Luol Deng's just basically taking his money and gone, right, okay, I'm going to focus on this. And it's almost like, look at what you could have had, GB, because there's nothing to say that he was only ever going to choose between British basketball and African basketball. He probably would have done both. But because for whatever reason he wasn't being embraced in the correct way, much like Pops wasn't, it's like it's almost they leave feeling kind of almost alienated in a way. Because GB basketball, let me tell you, isn't it as an entity? It really isn't a sort of big thing. It's basically propped up by Basketball England, who pick up the tab for most of it.
Well, I was going to ask, whose fault is all this?
Well, who indeed, but it's the usual thing. A lot of Chiefs and not enough Indians. It's just too many cooks and all that lot. It's like nobody can just come to a common denominator.
It's so weird. Right. It is so weird.
It's crazy. It's almost like we're afraid to do it. It's like, oh no, we can't be good. But
it all became a thing out of the power struggle a few years ago, when all of a sudden board members and people who probably were doing okay, GB was on a bit of a better keel for a while, and then all of a sudden the home nations are in charge. All of a sudden, Basketball England are top dogs. The GB brand, some of the jerseys that have come out, you can't even buy them.
No.
Simple things as branding, simple things as marketing the brand of GB basketball is non-existent. So guys that, perhaps as you say, you're not a massive follower, there's probably been thousands, hundreds of thousands of people who have been lost to GB basketball, who have gone to games, followed it, but leave just being bitterly disappointed. There's probably fans travelled out to Eurobasket who are like, why have I spent my hard-earned cash to watch this rubbish? And it's not the players, because we all know how good these players are.
No,
the whole power struggle for years of who wants what slice of pie. See if we're going to have this structure where we've got the home nations, who, let's be honest, at the moment only plays the home nations in Commonwealth Games. If we're talking about current international competitions and maybe some under-16 stuff. But why is GB basketball not the top dog and the 3 stem down from there? And you have responsibility of feeding in.
Am I right in
why
saying...
are we trying to make it so difficult?
Am I right in saying back in the day, we didn't have GB? It was England, Scotland,
No, it's
Wales.
just England. Yeah.
Because I remember England, getting big results against Russia when Russia were like runners up in the World Championships in the early 90s. And
I mean, I sat and was Mark Robinson and Yorick were talking about it the other night, and they were a legit team when you look at who they had. Bucknell was playing, Dorsey was playing. There's all kinds of superstars playing. But I think the GB thing, wasn't it born more out of needing to be GB to be able to do basketball in the Olympics?
Yeah, that's exactly what it was.
Why is that? Why can it not be the home nations?
Because in
the same in football, isn't it? Actually, yeah.
Well, it's the same in everything in the Olympics. It's GB,
football, swimming,
Scotland.
athletics. Yeah.
Yeah, so they kind of had to do it, and obviously it was to their advantage because by becoming a GB team, not a national team, it meant guys like Kieran Achara had that experience, and that was to, if you want to put it that way, England's advantage that they became GB, because then you get guys like Kieran Achara,
Rob Archibald, Gareth Murray.
Gareth Murray,
so it did
I get it, I
favour.
get it, but if you're gonna have separate entities running, the home nations, and there's only really one competition the home nations enter. What's the point? Why not integrate that for the Olympics? If we need to be GB for the Olympics, integrate for the Olympics. For every other competition, split it up.
So I remember. Well, I suppose that's the case for a few sports. We talk about rugby as well, for rugby sevens. I remember a wee bit of fallout at the time when GB kind of became, and a few guys who were involved in basketball up here, I remember making comments like, well, we're never going to get a chance to represent senior men in Scotland. And it might have been someone like Kieran Achara going, well, we've now got a chance to play at an even higher level as GB. So from a Scotland point of view, they were like, well, if you're good enough to play for Scotland, that's fine. But you should be striving to play as high a level as you possibly can and play for GB, whether that's it, World Cup qualifying, Eurobasket, whatever else. Scotland would only be competing at small nations level. And that's with, I say tiny nations, they'd probably absolutely destroy GB if they could have more preparation. But you're talking about places like San Marino, Ireland,
yeah, but Grant,
Andorra.
You say that, but Scotland beat England at the Commonwealth Games in Gold Coast. Remember?
And I dined out in that for a while. I do.
Yeah, so it happened. But I mean, even that Commonwealth Games, it was like
that was a BBL England team.
Yeah, but with the women, I mean, this is just typical of British basketball. The women get a silver medal out of nowhere, an unbelievable achievement. If it hadn't have been for the fact that 10 minutes later netball won gold, they would have come back the heroes, and look at what's been done with netball now. And the fact that for this Commonwealth game it was only 3x3, so they couldn't even go and defend their silver medal in their home country, was a disappointment for me. 3x3 is, it divides opinion, and I think it's possibly one for an entire show as to the culture of 3x3. But what those athletes did, and we must get them on to do that show, because we've had several players from the men's, the women's on the wheelchair agreed to come on the show. Was incredible. What the guys did to win that gold medal was unreal. The women won silver. There's two bronzes for the wheelchair athletes. I mean, that was great for basketball, and everyone was saying, "Oh, this is amazing for the sport." And I'm kind of sitting on the fence a bit, going, "Is it great for the sport, or is it great for the brand 3x3?"
It's great for 3x3, yeah.
And that's not taking away any of the achievement, because it's an incredible achievement.
Of course.
Because even though it's
look
England,
to do it again
Scotland,
in the next competition, yeah.
Exactly, but even though they're split into nations, so it was England and Scotland, it's the same thing. They get a couple of days here and there to practice. They get a couple. Julius Joseph, what that guy's done for 3x3 is off the chart with ball out and whatnot. So, but he only gets to work his team out for a couple of days before they go to it, and they win gold. And it's like things like that aren't recognised. So back to what Grant said. The players aren't the problem because there's talent for days on that GB team, and there's guys that weren't selected for the final 12, and it's a big list, so we're actually spoiled for choice in terms of talent. It's just figuring out how to do it. I don't know if you guys have heard it, but a couple of people have been saying to me it's because it looked like there was guys that were kind of playing for themselves rather than for the team. And when I said, well, who are you talking about specifically? And people are saying, well, Ovi Soko seemed to be playing more for himself than for GB, like he had a point to prove. But when I've seen Ovi play for GB
Ovi just wants to
in
win.
real life, he's just a guy that wants to win.
Yeah.
The guy's a competitor.
The thing is with him, we noticed it at the Lions, is that he when he played for the Lions, he was trying to do things that weren't necessarily his role to do, but he was trying to do it because whoever was at that role wasn't doing what they were meant to do, and he would find himself in the wrong position or whatever because he wanted to win, not because he didn't have nothing to prove.
Yeah. So I mean, talent. Here's the stupid thing: if there wasn't talent, you'd be going, well, it's obvious we haven't got the talent to do it.
But we have.
But we've more than got the talent. We're oozing talent at the moment.
We'll talk about sort of coaching decisions because there's been questions about that. But just before we do, in terms of other countries and their situation, how do I phrase this? Does their governance cover their domestic competitions as well as their international? So is there kind of a break between, let's say, Spain's top division and whoever organises for them their international competition?
Well, who knows? But you know full well that the coaching staff for Spain, Greece, pretty much most other nations are full-time staff that are paid to be the head coaches of their national team. Whereas, look at our head coach's situation.
It's voluntary,
I mean, Nate, it's kind of voluntary, and Nate Ranking's the coach in the G League. Mark Stootle, he's always been a voluntary coach, if you like.
Coach Kapoulis was there, yeah.
Yeah, so it's like until they figure out how they're going to get some money, it's sponsorship. They need sponsorship. Yeah. It's as simple as that. But what are they doing to?
And that goes back to the brand. Like we've got zero. We're the only team at Eurobasket without a TV deal and without a sponsor on our jersey.
That's madness, isn't it?
And it's madness. Like brand exposure of GB basketball or whatever is at all-time low. Hey, I wonder how much they would have charged if we said you want to put a wee BTR stamp on their side of their jersey. We probably would have taken if we said we'll give you £100 per jersey.
Exactly.
Or put it on.
Exactly.
Do you know what I mean? Tell me I'm not probably
no, you're not wrong.
No,
I'm just laughing because I wouldn't be able to afford that.
They'll pay for whatever.
Grant, you're right. You are right. But the one that annoyed me was the fact that we could only watch it on that courtside 18, whatever it is, and it's like surely it should have just been on YouTube. You know what I mean? Because it's like. Yeah. You know that the other nations are going to be showing it on probably their version of domestic television.
Has it not been in the past when we've got to Eurobasket? The BBC's had it on their like sports.
It's been
pages,
on a red button, or it's been on YouTube. Yeah,
it's been on. And you're like we're not even the BBC don't want to just fill space on their sports.
Listen, they couldn't organise training private. They're not going to be able to organise going on the red button or something beforehand, are they?
It's just
my question
blows my mind.
My question regarding the sort of governing bodies of other countries and their link with their top leagues is it's always made sense to me that it would benefit from being a little bit more kind of BBL central, as it were. Especially now, seeing as it's 777 and they're the guys that have got all the funding, it's obviously not something they'd perhaps be interested in. But I've always thought if we had a strong domestic competition, a strong domestic league, would obviously lead to better things internationally. And
But is that not what was happening before the home nations? I think there was a bigger tie-up. Hey, if any listeners listening and know more details, and I've said this round the wrong way, I apologise. But was it not before the home nations kind of took control, there was a lot more better dialogue between GB and BBL? I'm sure there was a bit more tie-up in terms of selling events. The other home nations support, you look at that, and obviously Ad's touched on like the NBA guys. Not every nation have all their NBA guys, but you've got Luka, and you've got the guys in Italy, you've
Porzingis.
got Bogdanovic, you've got Porzingis at Latvia. All these guys are dying to play for them, and okay, we've not got any strictly GB guys in the NBA, but it just tells you how much these guys care for this competition, and it just really pisses me off that from a governance point of view, we seem to not even care about it at the board level. Like it's as if it's like an inconvenience.
It'd be,
but I'm almost certain that
interesting.
the BBL, and it would be interesting to see if 777.
Well,
I think I saw someone say that.
I was going to say.
I think I saw comments on social media being like, "What could happen?"
Yeah,
sky's the limit,
obviously,
really, with what they've done at London.
At this point, realistically, they've just done what they've done. We can't expect them to go, all right, we'll pick up the tab for that as well. You know what I mean? But in time, I think that 777 will realise the importance of GB as part of it, especially now that, and this is only happened in the past few years. What used to frustrate me going to GB games, especially the men's games, was that even I'm looking at the roster going, who's that and who does he play for? Because there was a time I went to a GB game at Bellevue, there wasn't one guy out of the BBL playing. So they're wondering why the stands aren't rammed. Well, it's simple. If you're going to watch GB, you've not got your guy to root for.
Identity.
You know what I'm saying? It's like, no, seriously, check out Ovi Soko and Gabe Olaseni. It's like, well, okay, but I don't follow them during the season. Whereas now, you've got the likes of Teddy Okerefo, Dan Clark, Jamal Anderson, Pat Whelan, Luke Nelson, Tariq Phillip. It's becoming... Ben Mockford, it's becoming more dominated by the BBL now, which is a good sign.
I think if we're talking about like investment and stuff, I remember talking to Gareth Murray on this on the podcast I did from last year on how his kind of first involvement in the GB stuff, and just the year after the 2012 Olympics. So all the kind of NBA guys, big guys that kind of stepped down. I've just gone and Googled it. You're talking about the team in 2013 was Kyle for the Eurobasket then, Kyle Johnson, Miles Hesson, Andrew Lawrence, Dan Clark, Kieran Achara, Drew Sullivan, Ogo Adebayo, Justin Robinson, Gareth Murray, Eric Boting, and Ali Fraser. And you're talking about, that's a big BBL-based team. Yeah. But he was telling me they did their training camp at the FA's place where the English football team trained. They kitted it out in basketball courts. So, the sport has had money. We've just wasted it on these things round about 2012, not looked at investing it for the future.
Oh, well.
And then we looked 10 years later, and we're 5, 6, 7, 10, 100 steps back.
For sports like basketball and considered as kind of minority sports, even though they're not, the Olympics was one of the worst things to ever happen, because they were thrusted with millions of pounds. Some governing bodies had never seen that much money before, and there was no longevity. It was for the Olympics, and that was it. Once the Olympics was done,
look at you. You'll see that from water polo. I've seen that in volleyball. GB volleyball
dying out now because of the Olympics.
Yeah, GB volleyball came from kind of England volleyball, and for years England volleyball disappeared because they had no national teams, no nothing. It's only the last few seasons it's reappeared, and they seem to be improving, but those fires died because of the Olympics and the amount of money 100%. They got, and the lack of guidance to invest.
And it's where it went as well. Some of that money disappeared.
Hey, listen, you say that, but when you say there was a lot of money involved, it was insane.
Yeah.
I've got friends that played at the Olympics, and some of the stories as to some of the, the places they went and what they got and what the places they stayed. It was like, God, it was so much money. So yeah, it's like, well, crazy. Did they did anyone look at the balance sheet and go, right, okay, maybe we shouldn't have spent that amount of money on this. We could have kept that or put it into that. because with something as big as the Olympics, they're chucking money at you, left, right, and centre.
So, there's always been an insinuation of where some of that money ended up, and when you look at something like water polo, where what they essentially did was send the better players abroad to play professionally, so they were being paid by clubs in Europe. They didn't need any money. Where was that going? It's insanity.
Same story in volleyball.
Yeah.
Well, indeed.
But basketball, the worst thing with basketball is it's, when you look at the numbers, it's not a minority sport. We see it all the time. It's the second highest participated sport, blah, blah, blah. And it never translates. And, well, what we've not uncovered, but what we've discussed on this regarding too many governing bodies for essentially entities that aren't necessarily concerned with the GB as such. It's more home nations and separate interests and motivations. It makes sense. It needs to be more centralised, definitely. Let's there were some coaching decisions that were questioned a fair amount across Twitter and across various formats and outlets. Where do we stand on that? Because I know in our own little group chat, me and you had always questioning why someone like Jamal Anderson doesn't play more. Patrick Whelan in one game was, I think they said on the thing, he was 4 for 4. In the next game, he played like 7 minutes. It didn't make any sense.
I always think of these champs, player minutes isn't really consistent from a GB point of view. I've always wondered that for any champs that I've watched.
Should it be?
I'm like, seriously? Why is this guy playing hardly any minutes? When he was the best player of the game before, it just never makes sense.
To me, it just oozes a kind of desperation of, right, we need to try something else. We need to mix it up a little bit. And there was some strange decisions being made. I mean, when you've got a roster of 12 in a competition like that, you've got 12 to use 12. Use them wisely. Pabs just mentioned it. I don't think Jamel saw any court action. And it's like,
which is insane.
He's only played 2 matches.
Well, you've got one of the best defensive players they've got right there.
He's on a high from the 3-on-3s as well.
Exactly. I mean, look what the guy's just done, for God's sake. Him and Miles Hessen, they're absolute heroes at the moment because of what they did at 3x3, and then he doesn't play a minute. And you're going, well, Jamal Anderson isn't just some... You look at the guys that didn't get selected for the 12, and you're going, that is you've got to be good to get selected to that 12. But then to not play, I just don't get it.
See the devil's advocate now. I'm almost at the stage where I'm like, is that just the 12 that wanted to play? Why did Teddy drop out? You guys might know. I don't know.
Well,
why did all of a sudden he drop out?
There is something on Teddy. There is something on
valid.
Teddy that's let's just say it's along the lines of injury related, but it's not something to discuss on a podcast. We'll wait for him to kind of bring that out. But
right.
there is something going on with Teddy. But Teddy I thought he was really good in the first game.
Yeah, I mean Teddy always he's consistent,
solid. Yeah, he's a great player. Great player.
But then you're sort of looking at going, well, he started Mockford on more than one occasion, and a guy like Ben Mockford, this is nothing against Ben Mockford because the guy's a great player, but if he's not hitting shots early on in the game, you've got to get him out of there. Now, I remember Josh Beck referring to him as being streaky. He's a shooter. That's how it is. Shooters either have great games or not great games.
He'll keep shooting no matter what.
So, well, this is it. But what would you rather do? Try something else or have him go 0 for 25?
Well, this was always the thing we've always thought with Ben Mockford is he is one of those awesome players you bring off the bench because... And you say, you've got 15 minutes. Or, you come off the bench, you've got the next 5 minutes. You've got the green light, put the ball up, and then off the bench rest.
But see, so at this Eurobasket, guess what his percentage is from 3?
Go on.
I wouldn't even know.
Just over 16%.
Right, okay. So there you go.
And he's playing 14, 15 minutes.
But that is the life as a shooter. that is the life. But it's unusual that he's just not had a good tournament. I mean, I saw him. I mean, he won the game in that game against Germany in Newcastle.
Him and
I
Luke Nelson.
was courtside. He was outstanding, and that is a benchmark for performance that you want. If it's not happening after the first couple of games, you've got to be looking at it going, well, what do we do? Do we try something else? The other thing that always blows my mind, and this is probably just, Pabs, you'll know where I'm coming from. It's
Manchester.
the old school in me. It's the old school person in me. Is that you've got a guy as big as Olaseni on the inside, but he hovers around the perimeter a lot. And, you're just going, the guy is, he is big. He's not 7 foot, but he's a good 6'8", 6'9", and he is hench. Yeah. His physique, he's like got kind of a sort of Karl Malone physique. He's very, very broad, and the guy's a monster under the basket. So you're sort of looking at it going, why aren't they going to him inside? Just get the ball into him and let him go one-on-one with someone. And then you're sort of going, oh yeah, I forgot that position doesn't exist in the sport anymore. So
it does though. Porzingis.
In European basketball, it still does.
Yeah.
Well, in Eurobasket, I think you need a good 5 man.
You've got one who's not being used as a true 5.
Dan Clark, I suppose, is the same. He's always in the corner.
There was times in games that I watched where Olaseni stood at the top of the 3-point line with the ball in his hands, looking for passes. And it's like, hang on a minute, why aren't the guards bringing the ball? Why aren't the guards in that position looking for him in the high post, low post, any post? Because if you can get that guy the ball, he can back people down, and he'll go up and stuff it in the face. So it's just like, go old school.
You certainly change it up.
Guy.
Yeah.
For the tournament, he's averaging 9 and 7.
Yeah, his numbers haven't been too bad.
Considering he does not fed the ball inside,
yeah, that's the thing, and he's just sort of looking at the TV, going, "Well, it's easy. Everyone's a coach when you're at home." But you're just sort of going, is this typical thing of the modern game?
It was insinuated that perhaps Nate is not the man for the job, but more so than that, he's too detached from British basketball to know who to use at the right time, and
But apparently every camp he's been massively involved in selection. The basketball world, let's be honest, is a lot smaller place now. He'll be watching tape. What's the difference? Mark Stuttle being at Teesside last year to Nate being in the D League. He's probably seen the same amount of tape and the same access as what these guys have had. Nate Rankin's a GB legend, and we could put what he did as a player and what he did in the BBL was spectacular, and you need to probably detach that from him now as a coach, but you don't get to be a D-League coach for the Canton Charge and looking likely to move up to a NBA bench probably within the next year or two if you weren't well regarded. Look at Joe Prunty. Joe Prunty's a frontline bench head coach. He's been head coach to the Nets. He's been around the NBA as well. And there could be a lot of chat being like, would GB benefit from a more European-based coach? But then you speak to people in our game, and it's like, well, our style is much closer to an Americanized way of playing. And maybe that just doesn't work, and that may be why our results are our results in terms of European competition. And you see how much one-on-one's played in our domestic game, and however, it's interesting to see the teams that do well in our league do play a really varied offense and defense, which is much more European. I think it's easy to put the blame on Nate because it's really his first proper campaign in a few years as coach. He's not based in the country. He's not getting the one-to-one time or meeting the players, but the world of technology makes that so much easier to speak to players. The world makes it so much better to see what players are doing. It's easy to blame the coach when there's so much more going on at different levels. Look at in football with Man United, they're all up in arms about the Glazers, but really, and they were moaning about managers and whatever else, but they kind of get it, actually. It's at a higher level that there's fundamental issues. And will Nate probably keep his job as GB coach after Eurobasket? I'd probably doubt it.
Well,
because he's an easy one to blame for it.
Well, quite the opposite. I think he will keep his job because that culture of getting rid of coaches like that doesn't seem to always be a thing. You know what I mean? So I really don't think they will get rid of him.
We're saying it like they won't get rid of him. There's a chance he won't want the job anymore.
Well, there you go. I mean, you know, he's obviously got a very committed job in the G League. Yeah, but he's got to be looking at it going, can I do everything that I can do whilst I'm coaching in the G League? And he's probably sniffing around making it into the league as an assistant coach into the NBA. You know, we've seen these guys.
I remember, again, my only kind of connection into kind of GB stuff as a player is through talking to Gareth Murray. And he always talked up of how good a coach Joe Prunty was. And Prunty kind of went through a massive change as a GB guy. Took us from campaigns where we were massive, kind of like this one, losing all the games, to campaigns where we were 500 and if not having winning records. There's every chance that Nate turns this around, because not in a Eurobasket way, but we know the players are talented, and the fact that so many different people are talking about it and being like, well, we need to actually do something about it. Something might happen this time, and it's through platforms like this, our voices, through who else has ever made comments on it online, that things will actually happen.
Yeah.
And that guys like Nate, whether he's head coach or he's involved in whatever way, as a past GB starter, BBL legend, as I said when you got cut off ads, he might be still involved. Or maybe GB go, wait a minute, maybe we need to go look at the Euro version, see what happens. But whatever happens, it needs to be everyone pushing the same direction to make the sport better.
Yes. It doesn't seem to be that.
I'm just looking at some stats on the Eurobasket website, and out of 2014... Is that why
the glasses went on?
Yeah. I can't see anything otherwise. And GB are dead bottom, 24th. You know what I mean? They're right down there at the bottom of the table. No, I'm just looking at some statistics, you know, for the individual players, because that was interesting what you were saying about Olaseni's numbers look pretty good. I mean, you've got guys like Cavell Bigby Williams who are averaging 6 minutes. I don't know if you guys have seen much of him. I've been under the basket taking pictures of him whilst he's playing a game. The guy is enormous, and he is highlight film as well. So you're looking going, well, okay, he's young, so what? Young guys have got more hunger for things like this. You know what I mean? They're trying to prove themselves on a big scale, because he doesn't play over here. You know, he's got something to prove. So why don't you give him some minutes and see what happens if it's not working with the other guys? You know, Danny Clark's playing 15 minutes, but his numbers aren't incredible by any stretch of the imagination. So try something else. Put another big guy in there. Jamal Anderson, 2 games averaging 12.3 minutes. Well, you know that 12.3 minutes is basically 6 minutes in 2 games. You know, and there's a lot of donuts on his line.
That's his average. So he's played 24 minutes in 2 games.
Well,
so it's 12 a game.
Yeah. So I just don't get some of it. You know, it's like Carl Wheatle's averaged 28 minutes a game, which is the most of anyone's played. But that's never happened for him before. So why now has he become the guy getting the most minutes, even more than Luke Nelson and Miles Hessen? So it's just inconsistency, isn't it? It's like there's got to be some consistency.
Preparation is
in the preparation. I mean,
there's
not
preparation.
Yeah, and that isn't the fault of the coaching staff and the players. This is to finish this point, because we've been on it a while. This is the most frustrating thing. Talent is not an issue. Talent's not an issue.
No, I don't think it is either.
You know, the coaching hadn't been an issue because Stuart was doing a great job. We know that Ryan King's a great coach. He is, you know, but can he do the job with everything else that he does in the sport?
He's got a lot on, hasn't he? Let's.
I mean, look at it. You got Stootle right here in the UK.
Well, this is it. This
seeing
seems
most
like
of the players week in and win out. It's perfect.
Yeah, I was thinking him or PJ or
somebody that's in the league. And the fact that the balance now is going very much BBL at last, rather than having to pull guys back from Europe.
Makes sense to know who's who. Yeah,
it makes sense.
But Stuttle, before this season, when he was in D3 with Teesside, does he see more players than what? How many players has he actually seen when he's actually just watching tape? That's exactly what Nate Rankin's doing. He's having the same conversation with players.
It's easier for him to go to a game, though, and to understand, I guess.
Do coaches really do that nowadays, though?
I don't know.
When everything's online?
Oh, well, there is that as well. But how many games is Nate Rankin watching week in, week out in the BBL?
He's Nate Rankin.
The BBL player.
Well, yeah, and I'm sure he probably does, but how many games is he watching? How many of Ovi Soko's games did he watch last year? How many games of Miles Heston's did he see last year? It's almost like you sort of pull in the guys that you have to pull in. But what about guys that didn't make the cut that are maybe having better seasons than some people that are in the 12? You could go on about it forever.
Well, we'll put that to bed, and apologies for not really answering anybody's question on it and being
good
probably
discussion.
As more confused as
let's
ever.
have a success story. Let's talk about me.
Let's move on. And let's talk about ads. Did you? It was on Instagram, wasn't it? The picture you sent out of your Iced Graphics Grizzlies was the corporate team you were a part of. And you guys, you went all the way and fell at the last hurdle as it would seem.
And we were beaten by a team that came over from Israel and played under the name Jerusalem. And when we got chatting to them afterwards, when you're watching guys at this level, I mean, we're all over 40s guys. It was open age, so I don't think it was like, you have to be. We just happened to put a team together of guys from NBA 40, which is a pretty amazing setup here in Manchester for over 40s basketball. So it's a bunch of us as mates that sort of said, yeah, let's do it. And we got chatting to two of the guys afterwards. And I said to the guy, are you ex-pro? He's like, yeah, I'm ex-pro. And it's like, yes, you can tell, because even though you're pushing 60, you are still a baller. And I said to him, which team did you... I was telling him about Josh Beck, because Josh does a lot of commentary out there. It turns out that he played for Hapoel Jerusalem.
No shit.
And I was like, hang on, I know someone that played for them in the 90s. And he went, who? And I was like, Tony Dorsey. And his eyes lit up and he went, Tony D! I'm like, yeah. He's like, what a guy. And he called his other mate over, and they're having this mad conversation. And the other guy who comes up, he's like Ivan Drago, as he comes up and goes, I too played with Tony D. And I was like, whoa, man. So these are like big time guys.
They would have played in Europe then, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, it was an awesome weekend. And I just got to shout out my teammates from the Ice Graphics Grizzlies, our super captain and organiser, Kev Hoyle, played on a very sore calf. We're old men. These injuries happen. First time I go in for a layup, I fractured my thumb.
Jesus Christ. That's not old. That's brittle bones, ads.
Yeah, probably. We had Jay rocking the pull-up 76ers socks all the way up to his knees, looking like a geezer. Nick, what a guy, getting stuck in with those steals. And
what a guy.
Simon, oh man, Simon plays American football as his number one sport.
Oh, nice.
So he's got that kind of athletic, will go in for anything against anyone.
Yeah.
Ironically, he's missing a front tooth at the moment, not from American football, but from basketball.
No way.
Yeah, clashed heads with someone. And then we had our super sub, who none of us had met before, but through Ian, another one of the guys on the team, who's in a similar sort of setup down in London. A guy by the name of Ole Garrido agreed to play. We met him the day that we got down there and gave him his kit. And he was our Brazilian super signing. And because we're like, oh,
no preparation issues for you.
Yeah. He's like, I wonder if he's any good. And then when he pulled up and got out of his van, we were like, it was like blind date, going, please be good. And he gets out and he's like 6'5", 6'6".
Oh shit!
Yeah, and the guy was an absolute monster. So yeah, to cut a long story short, through all the injuries and adversity and being totally unprepared, the Ice Grizzlies came in second place, and I'm still wearing my medal.
Well, I'm going to get fit for that next year. I want to call up, coach. Put me in.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Is it a yearly event?
Yeah, the UK Corporate Games. It was one of those where I was going, "Oh, this is either going to be rubbish or amazing," and it was beyond amazing.
Yeah,
it was like the Olympics, but for corporations. So you had like Barclays Bank there in their forces, playing football, tennis, netball. There was this one guy walking around, and we're going, "What does this geezer do? What sport does he?" You know, someone who just doesn't look like they even like sport.
Yeah,
you like a hippie. You like a 70s Grateful Dead hippie. And we're looking at him going, "What's?" You're trying to apply a face to a sport. And I found out on Instagram, do you know what sport he was there representing Barclays Bank for? Poker.
Taekwondo.
Poker?
No.
Poker.
He was their poker player.
No way.
So, yeah, it's this massive event in the
That's
most
why there's a crisis.
incredible setting
They're
ever.
gambling our money.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
This university's like Hogwarts, man. And there was an opening ceremony where you marched with everybody. It was just incredible. And
sounds
they
awesome.
do it every year. It's all over the world, so you can, this team came over from Jerusalem to play it, but you can go to Dubai, America, Europe. It's just awesome.
Well done, sir.
And we came back on such a high just from the whole event. So big up to UK Corporate Games, and
What were your box scores, man?
Yeah, whatever. Actually, I think it was in the third game. I went 100% from the 3-point line.
Nice, 1 for 1.
2 for 2.
Even better.
Yeah,
Right.
2 for 2.
Impressive.
Generational talent.
That's dishing out dimes. Yeah, man.
Get the
Nice.
posters out for the kids.
Nice, mate.
Yeah.
I'm impressed. The jersey's awesome.
I can't walk, by the way.
Which I was going to say, that's the beauty of being our age.
I cannot move.
Any form of athletic.
Tomorrow's going to be worse.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
A bad case of the DOMS.
Yesterday was bad. Today was horrendous. I'm expecting it to be even worse tomorrow. So I'd also like to reiterate my previous statement made online at the weekend that I'm in fact retiring from high-level basketball immediately. And I'm going to go and play professional baseball instead.
Yay! Can we auction off the Adam Masters Game 1 jersey?
Well, there's many people asking about it. I know that they're thinking of hanging it up from the rafters at Bellevue.
Do it.
So yeah, there's been several requests.
Signed, I hope. Signed.
Yeah.
Sweated in and signed.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, there's been inquiries about my rookie card. People want that.
Oh, I'm going to make that. No, you've said that. I'm making that.
Yeah. So,
legend.
Look, the moral of the story, kids, and GB basketball is that even at the age of 44, you can still be a winner. Oh, no one will see me holding up my medal.
No, he's holding up his medal. Yeah, it's good work, though, sir.
Yeah.
Good work. Let's move on. Let's do some Twitter rounds. If you want to have a look at some bits that are on Twitter, we can. What do you guys make of the pre-season stuff that we've seen so far? So, a number of teams I think have played the USA Select, and the Giants evidently with a humongous win, which looked quite impressive, and to all accounts and purposes, they seem to be very impressive.
Yeah, I've heard some good reviews.
The US Basketball Select team, though, totally depends year on year. It's interesting that they seem to not be doing as... But it seems to be they're not even doing as big a tour this year. They've not Well, they're not coming up to Glasgow, for an example.
They always used to come down to Plymouth, yeah.
Yeah, so I think it seems like it's a bit smaller. They used to have like 2 or 3 teams touring around. It seems like there's just the one. But that's not to say they're not. These guys are all players. These guys can all play. So the BBL teams, you always want to try and outdo each other when you play against the USA Select teams. But I think it's just awesome seeing, like, Sheffield have been abroad. They announced that kind of sneakily in their socials. I've seen. We obviously know about the Pats going abroad, London being abroad, and obviously London without, let's be honest, half the GB team.
And then some prospects for them as well, apparently. It's like they're looking at a few guys.
And obviously they're missing some of the other guys playing Eurobasket, the Czech guy. I'm not even going to attempt to say his name. I'll let Josh Spetz teach me that one. But I just think it's class seeing these teams go away.
I do.
I think it's... you look at other teams, like Newcastle seem to have restarted training. You saw pictures of them. Rocks have started doing some proper pre-season training. And it seems guys are properly getting, as we've touched on before, without the BBL Cup, guys are coming in earlier. And hopefully teams are hitting the ball, hitting the court running. And like we're going to see such an amazing league season when it starts.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to Thursday night because I'm going to get to look at the Cheshire Phoenix. Now, whether that team will feature Jamel or not, I'm not sure because I'm guessing he'll be back, but he might be taking some time off post having a very, very busy summer so far. But, I'm really looking forward to it because Cheshire obviously have put together a really nice-looking roster. And the Cheshire Phoenix fans travel en masse when it's a local derby, so I'm expecting a few of them will come down. And we got our first look at this season's Magic team that are now in D1. So, I'm looking forward to Thursday because, it's a chance to have a look at what the Cheshire Phoenix have got lined up. But apparently last night, I wasn't there because I was coaching, but I've spoke to several people whose opinion you value, and apparently they were outstanding, and they look dangerous. Now, because it's pre-season, there's not been any sort of stats released, so we can't really see much as to what's going on. But Callum Jones played minutes last night, so he's returned to the Giants, it would seem. And also, they have made the signing of Nathan Robinson, who's not on the BBL's website announcement. Nathan played D1 at the University of Seattle.
Oh, nice.
I saw Nathan Robinson mentioned by BBL on Instagram.
Yeah, Nathan is the son of the great Mark Robinson, one of the greatest players ever.
Phenomenal,
one of the greatest players to ever play in the BBL, hands down. Grant, I don't know if you remember him. He came over in '94, so you were probably not even born or
maybe
something.
Before my I was born.
Yeah.
Still a nappies probably, but
so Mark came over in around '94 with a similar sort of things as the select team actually, because the Cook Group wanted to check out the UK with potential to making an investment, and he came over as a player to play some exhibition games, fell in love with it, and the rest is history. And Mark played his university ball under the great Bobby Knight at Indiana.
Oh God, he was
So Mark, one of the true greats. I mean, it's always difficult when you've got a great player's kid coming into a league because the expectation is going to be high from people that remember what a great player Mark was. But hey, Nathan Robinson, man, this guy can play. He's also dual passport, so he's played for GB at under 20s, under 18. So
he'll never play for the senior team then.
So another huge prospect. So let's hope that having him in the BBL is the ticket that we need because the guy is talent, no doubt. So again, it's a great thing because you've got a guy that has come over from the States where he lives now, but he played his basketball here as well before going off to the States, and has always come back for GB, as has his younger brother Marcus, who's just been and played for the under-16s at GB. So I'm excited to see Nathan Robinson this season. I hope that his rookie year is a good year for him. I'm sure it will be.
Oh, definitely. Listen, we had a tweet on the Giants. I just remembered and looked it up. Actually, you were tagged in it as well, as was Io, who's not here. But he said a few giants. This is from John. I'm not even going to try and say his Eep. I'm not even going to try. But John, thanks for your tweet. We know you are. You know who you are. I mean, a few Giants notes for your record from last night's run out. First one is shooters are us. So I'm guessing, any team with Vince that Vince is at the helm of is going to jack up the three ball effectively. Evidently, it would appear. He's also put Taj Green is definitely going to be one of the most fun players in the BBL.
Okay.
Corey Johnson is death. Corey Johnson is death to leggy tired teams. I like that. Very good. And his last point was Jamie Edwards was present, which I know you'll love that, Ads.
What was he doing? Selling the programs?
I hope he was filling water bottles.
Yeah, the water boy.
I'm guessing with Vince kind of at the helm is I mean, we don't want to waste too much time on it, but he's obviously limited as to what his role is there.
Well,
assuming.
put it this way, you might want to think of a new abbreviation for the CEO. The Chief Excitement Officer has excited himself into the position that he got himself into. So,
and what more can we say than that? Let's move on, shall we? Anything else you guys have seen on Twitter you want to bring up before we tackle the elephant in the room?
I saw Dirk throw one down on a highlight.
Oh yeah,
An open play. Yeah,
I missed that.
Yeah, it's out there. Dirk, you are.
That's my only thing I wish. BBL teams did pre-season highlights. I know nobody wants to give it away. I know nobody wants to give away their secrets. But I just wish we could watch some good pre-season basketball.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We can, everyone's going to see everyone soon enough. As it's synergy they'll use and BBL Player and YouTube, whatever else. Just start it now. Let's see the guys.
Yeah, man.
Yes, it would be nice.
Mr. Nicholson, if you're watching, if you're listening, get some Patriots highlights up for us.
He sent us a few highlights.
Not enough.
Of Mark-Edric Bell throwing one down. That was nice.
It's true.
Oh, did he get to go over with them?
He went to France, yeah.
Did he, Mr. Billy Big Bollocks, eh?
They did an interview with PJ off the back of a boat, to which I tweeted the gif, I'm on a boat from, what are they called? I forgot what they're called. Island. Something Island.
I can't remember.
Not the Jaws one. We're going to need a bigger boat. No, the boys. I'm on a boat. In fact, I'll play that as the outro. I think for this show because it's a bang. We still got
Lonely Island, isn't it? Lonely Island. Yeah.
Have we still got the new intro theme? Because
yes,
when I heard that
there.
last week, I about peed my pants laughing on the way to work when it came on. It was just.
If I had more time,
hilarious.
I'd add more bits. I'm going to add more bits to it. Probably something from what we're edging closer to talk about very shortly. Anything else to bring up on Twitter, or we move on? Oh, there was one thing which I quite enjoyed. One of the guys in the Discord channel put it in the BTR stamp of approval, and I enjoyed the tweet. I'll be honest. It was from Kofi Josephs, and he tweeted. Hang on, I'm just getting. How unprofessional is this? Come on now, keep clicking on the wrong button. He tweeted, let's say all the British BBL teams that have all their players right now didn't sign anybody else. If we made a team of only unsigned British pros, I feel we'd have a better team than 80% of them already. Wonder how many would get that work with a British unsigned to coach as well. I like that tweet. I thought that was good. What do you think about it as well, like the unsigned British players? I mean, there must be a number left that, Teddy's not been signed yet. And
for sure. I mean, just to mention Kofi, I mean, I know I think it was, when was it? He was getting a bit of stick from people about the fact that he has a, full-time, very busy job modelling. But I'm here to confirm once again. Anytime I'm at the centre, at the Manchester Basketball Centre, Kofi's there every day putting in work. To the point where when he walks in, I'll be like, "Yo, you're here to not do any work this summer." You know what I mean? The guy's there. The guy is there for 2 hours putting up shots. The odd game of one-on-one, scrimmaging, whatever. Also seen Aaron Jeramapour there.
Oh, really?
Yeah, who is obviously Magic alumni. He's back for his summer, having played in Taiwan last year and playing for the Iran national team at the Olympics.
Any chance of Vince getting hold of him?
Not a prayer, mate. Can't afford him.
But saying that, Kofi seems to me, and we said about it with Ben Watford, a similar kind of player in that vein that he'll give you 15 minutes and he'll put up threes, and if that's all you want him to do all night, and which is what I would have thought is something Vince would want him to do all night, I'd have thought he'd be ideal for that.
You'd thought so. I don't know. I mean, we had a chat, and he didn't allude to being close to signing for anyone, but I think that there's plenty of interest. Obviously, everyone wants to see him we want to see him in the league. I mean, it's Kofi. Yeah. He's exciting. He's sometimes controversial. He's just entertainment. Still one of the greatest performances I've ever seen last year against Giants.
The 46 points is phenomenal. Phenomenal game. Shall we move on then, fellas? Shall we get this done?
I'm just looking online and seeing who is still free agents, and obviously you've still got guys like Matthew Bryan Manning. I don't think Jules Dangakodo's signed anywhere. It's quite interesting seeing. Who was the guy that came in halfway through the season for Lions last year? The British guy, big player. Was it Martin?
Oh yeah, Ryan Martin.
Yeah, he's not going anywhere yet.
He was good.
Very interesting.
Where's Jordan Williams next year?
Is he not signed in Europe somewhere or in
Asia?
Asia?
Europe? Oh, okay.
I think Asia. I could be wrong.
He's a talent. He shouldn't be going anywhere. We need him in the BBL. He's a great BBL player. Plus, he's in my fantasy team, which means he's not in it anymore.
GB.
Yeah, I think it was it not? I feel like it was someone in one of our chats said that Jordan Williams was off somewhere, either Asia or deepest darkest Europe.
We'll keep our eye on that anyway. All right, here we go then.
What episode number are we up to?
I don't know.
Because on Spotify, I'm going to look now.
Did it tell you? Because I stopped labelling the numbers, and then we made the change to BTR, and I don't think I bothered.
It says on Spotify, when you go to Below the Rim, that last week's episode, so this week's episode. Oh, I thought there was numbers on it.
No, I stopped numbering them ages ago. I stopped numbering them at like 78, and that was me numbering them. I just couldn't be bothered.
Because we've got to be over the century by now, surely.
Oh, we're well over. We're near 150.
Because there's all the stuff that we've done that haven't been numbered.
Well, that doesn't include
COVID
the FBBL stuff.
And before we became Below the Rim as well.
The FBBL stuff was good. All right, 3 years.
There you go. You stopped numbering it at episode 83.
But that was only numbered from when we rebranded all the stuff with Tub Podcast.
Well, put it this way, Josh Wiltshire was on that show, so it's going back a bit. It was Cup Final Preview. Mike Tuck was on as well. So that's going back quite a while, isn't it? Right, so it's February that you stopped doing it because we had Gino on.
But we don't have our full what do you call it? Our full quota of things on there either, because you can only have so much. So I can't afford to go to the higher broadcaster level, which means you get like almost unlimited storage. We only get a certain amount of gig, so I have to delete older ones.
Right.
I took off all the FBBL ones. Yeah.
Let's just say we're well over 100.
I think we're over 200, mate. It's it's been 5 years of podcasting.
5 years, has it? Has it been 5 years?
Maybe a bit more than that.
5 years, eh?
2016, 2017, something like that.
Yeah. Well, it's good to see that we've had such a big influence on podcasters to start their own shows. Then, surely.
Thanks, guys.
I'd like to say that when we first started doing this, there weren't all the podcasts. It was I used to listen to Hoops Fix, and I remember thinking I really liked listening to it, especially the ones where you had old BBL players on. Even Mark Woods. Mark Woods did one with Alan Cunningham. And that was a while ago. And I just remember thinking I'd listen to a weekly show of BBL stuff, and no one did one. So I thought I'll start doing it. Make 'em Take 'em. I honestly can't remember if Make 'em Take 'em was before us or about the same sort of time. They were doing the show as well, and I liked that show. It was a good show. It was concise, full of facts, and really good. Grit and Grime, of course. With IO was doing that stuff, and that was the season. I think first season Justin Robertson came over. What are we talking there? It's 2017 again, about 5 years ago. Hooper's Voice has obviously always been doing stuff. I think it mainly focuses on NBA, but they were doing British basketball stuff as well.
I'm sure there was also the UK Basketball Hub Pro podcast as well.
There's another one as well that came and went. That were just some guys chatting about British basketball. That was quite entertaining. But apparently none of it counts pre the BBL show, which is a shame. You know, the worst of it is, and I shared this in the group chat, the Make 'em Take 'em guys got in touch with me. They were as pissed off as I was, to be honest. And he showed me a Facebook chat that Jay Marriott had sent him in 2018 saying, love the show, listen to it, it's great. I'm thinking of starting well, he told him it was a fitness show, but it was clearly the BBL show. They were thinking of starting, any advice sort of thing. And it's like, well, Jay knows that they're not the first. Which just, I don't know. Anyway, I wrote some shit down. Do you want to hear it? Shall I bother? I might cut it out.
I'll put it in.
BBL show. Do better. I don't listen to the show because it's not my cup of tea. I find it boring and it frustrates me when they have guests on but do zero research on them, on their careers or any of the talking points that might actually be interesting for the listener. Now, they've made 100 shows. Good for them. Give them their flowers. I'll say that to Drew Lasker specifically. Now, it was brought to my attention by a fan of the show, Ali Gilfillan, who's been listening since way back at the beginning and was Fantasy League champ, I think 2 years back to back at one stage. He tweeted stating specifically that I'd been doing a BBL podcast over 5 years ago, which pricked my ears up to, obviously some sort of claim has been made by the BBL show. Okay, we all make mistakes. And at the time I replied almost instantly to the tweet how much fun it was to do the FBBL show, listed some of the guests we had on. Alright, so I was quite light-hearted about it at that point. And then I thought, I'll have a little listen and see what was said. And what I heard was basically a guy trying to create a brand new narrative that didn't exist, claiming to be the first BBL podcast, marvelling at how many podcasts and content creators there are now as a result of their brilliance. My feelings towards the matter changed dramatically having heard that. I'll be honest, I was pissed off. The level of disregard and disrespect was a bit too much. And granted, I've always been too sensitive in these situations, and I really shouldn't care, and I shouldn't dive in on Twitter like I do. At Livergas, you're probably listening. I don't know if you are or not. You give me shit, and I jump in every time. I know I shouldn't, but I do.
Perhaps you're being so British basketball right now.
I requested an apology for me and I listed the podcast that had been before them, before me even, and since then there's been no formal kind of apology from the BBL show account, from Drew Lasker or from Jay Marriott. And then I've kind of listed a few things that bothered me specifically. One, the sheer balls of making a bullshit statement without doing any research is just nuts to me. Why would you come out with that and create that narrative if you've not at least had a look first? It's not difficult to do. It is not difficult to do. The fact that 5 years ago... Oh, this was another point. The fact that 5 years ago I'd been on a podcast talking up Drew Lasker and his playing ability really fucked me off. So obviously he was still playing at that point, and we would have done shows. Ads, you would have been on the show. Darren Paul would have been on the show, and we would have talked about Newcastle Eagles and how good defensively Drew Lasker was and what he offered to that team. And I can remember specifically saying at one stage of his career he was coming off the bench and he was a game changer for them. So it fucked me off that I talked about him in a positive light. The next point, the fact that mine and our popularity as a podcast, let alone other podcasts as well and the popularity of them, has led to the BBL as an entity thinking it would be a good idea to have a branded podcast, and hiring them means the reality is without us, they don't even fucking exist. They don't exist without us.
I mean, look.
Hang on, I got one more. We do this, and I'm speaking for you guys, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but we do this for the love of the BBL. Not for money. Now, this is specifically for me. Every day I consider when is the right time to stop doing the show. I've got a wife and kids. The day this bullshit all came out, I had a hole in the roof above my bathroom and there was water pissing through it because we've had a fucking monsoon rain. So I was in the loft with a bucket at one stage, dealing with that, and then dealing with this prick and his fucking bullshit comments on his show, and then his tweet about give him the flowers bollocks, which fucked me off as well. But I'm stuck in a job I don't necessarily like because I've got responsibilities. I've got to pay the bills, got to pay the mortgage, and every day I think I'll just stop doing this now. I'll leave it to someone else. I'll walk away. What's the point? We have legitimately been a big part of getting the BBL content creating and podcasting to where it is now. And I'm quite proud of that. Twitter was a fucking wasteland in terms of BBL before Ads, me, you, Daz, then Josh as well start, getting things going. Dan Routledge gets involved. We piss him off by mistake by quoting a wrong stat or something along those lines. Mark Woods gets involved with it. But people are talking about basketball now, and they weren't before, and they are now. The only reason I don't stop doing this is because I love the league. I've loved the BBL since 1989 specifically. I love the players in it. And when shit like this happens, it has an effect on my mental health specifically. It is really fucking irritating, and it is really puts you in a dark place. Makes me think, what's the point? But it is all for the players, and it is for the league. And to be honest, the people at the BBL show, they don't even give a shit. Not really. It's a publicity stunt for them. And from that, literally, fuck them. I mean, I don't know them personally. I don't want to know them personally. Fuck them.
Right, listen, Pops. Here's where it is, right? You just summed it up to a T, okay? Because you've just listed off all the reasons why you should, by right, just jack it in, all right? Now, there's only three of us here tonight, but look what we've managed to do. We actually have it where we can kind of pick a team, like who's doing it tonight, because obviously IO's not about, Nicholson's not about, Josh. But, where's Josh Bett? He's at Eurobasket. Why is Josh Bett at Eurobasket? Because he's one of the best commentators in the game. He's got the basketball knowledge of not just the BBL, the worldwide sport. Now, Josh gets a lot of flack from people on Twitter because he's quite a big deal out there in the world of commentary. And people will get on him for, how excitable he is or, his accent or whatever. But listen, Josh Bett is hands down the best commentator out there right now. And I've had people, in fact, Mark Robinson the other day when I was chatting to him said, I think he's better than a lot of guys in America on ESPN and
He is.
TNT and whatever.
He is phenomenal.
He is phenomenal, and his highlights that he puts out, the one of the hustle one the other day was just brilliant.
Yeah.
And that's
Cool
what
Adam
the game
Sandler.
needs.
Yeah.
So Josh is very busy. It's not that he just can't be bothered tonight. The guy's at Eurobasket commentating some of the best players in the world. Okay, my week is as follows. 3 nights out of the week, I'm at Manchester Basketball Centre because I coach the Mystics under-14s 3. My daughter plays for Mystics under-14s, so I have to get her to her practice. I commentate the Magic, the Mystics, a lot of stuff with Basketball England. It's a full-time commitment that I don't get paid for. And yet I'm sat here at 10:30 on a Tuesday night doing a show. And why do I do that show? Well, I'm not sure, because I don't really like any of you lot. No, that's a joke. I do it because it's like having it's like hanging out with your mates, but virtually talking about something that we're all passionate about. Like, you know, Pabs, we've met each other twice. You know what I mean? But I consider you a really close friend. You know, we're all mates. You know what I mean? I look forward to it. You know, when everyone's on and in full flow, when Io's going off his head about something, when I'm arguing with Josh, you know what I mean? When Nicholson's just being smarmy in the corner with his inside knowledge that he won't tell anyone, you know, and then to bring in the Braveheart as well. Do you know what I mean? And what we've done is we've brought together guys that are all over the country, because let's face it, Pabs and Grant couldn't be further apart if they tried. Between Cornwall and bloody Glasgow, right? I'm in the middle in Manchester. Josh is in Surrey. Nicholson's obviously down there as well. Io's in London. So how does that work, where you get 6 guys from all over the country that do this on a weekly basis for free because we like doing it and putting content out? Now, the problem is with British basketball, and we sort of alluded to it before, is there's a lot of sort of ownership issues over, oh, it's mine, nobody touch it. Well, sorry guys, there's new sheriffs in town as far as a lot of things are concerned, because 777 are here to shake things up a little bit, and they're trying to make the game look more attractive. So all the things that we talk about between ourselves, where you're going, why is Dan Routledge still the voice of British basketball when Josh Bett is the best commentator out there in the country? Pablo, you know, I'm not blowing smoke up your ass because you're my mate, but what you do with Plymouth is amazing. You're a great commentator. You know,
it's good fun, but I'm not on the level of Josh Bett.
I mean, here's what it is. When I'm commentating the Magic games and I do lead commentary, you know, I pick up stuff off Josh. You know, when there's a big play, I like to go a bit nuts as well. And I used to sort of hold back a bit, but through seeing how Josh does it, I've gone, no, I'm going to live the moment like I'm a fan as well as a commentator. Good. And some of the ones I've posted, well, with really Magic games, there's one that got played all the time of me just losing my shit because Andre Gale had just won the game against Doncaster with a dunk in the last second of the game, and I'm flailing around the place shouting, and it's the passion, you know what I mean? And that's why we do it. So all these guys that have been around for 30 years doing the same thing, that it needs a shake up. It really does. And I think that 777 are going to do that. So the game just isn't so stale anymore over here, because we're talking about GB. It's like, could we make more of an effort to make it more uncool if we tried? You know, you've got a lot of people knocking around the league that have got themselves in these positions. Prime example, the chief excitement officer. You know what I mean? Somebody who calls themselves the chief excitement officer is in charge of a club. You know what I mean? It's almost like there needs to be some weeding done to get rid of a few weeds that sort of grow back a lot. It's, you know, it's like, we talked about it before. It's like all these stats guys. Do you know what I mean? It's like, oh, did you know that so-and-so averages the most round-the-back passes in the 3rd minute of the 3rd quarter when playing against Surrey of all time? It's like, right, give a shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of people that just need to get over it. I mean, personally, I've listened to the BBL show a couple of times. I've enjoyed a couple of episodes. But you can tell that those guys have got to toe the line a little bit. The reason we're so popular is because we are an independent show. So we can pretty much say what we want. And anything that we've said that's caused a uproar, we've not lied about it. We're not just making stuff up going, oh, guess what? These are facts that we come at them with. So when I get calls from the BBL because certain people have called them complaining about the content of our show, it's like, well, the reason that you got laughed on the phone, mate, is because what have we actually done wrong? You watch a Man United game and players like Gary Neville publicly talk about get the Glazers out, while stood in Old Trafford. You know what I mean? It's like, that is the nature of sports, and we're here to discuss it. So if something juicy comes up, we're going to talk about it. And people have got the right to then come back at us, like we've got the right to come back at them too. But we're not lying about anything. We're not just plucking stuff out. My whole thing with Jamie, I almost now just say to people if it gets mentioned, it's like, look, I tell you what, rather than ask me what my problem is, he did an interview with Hoops Fix. Just go and watch that. Because
just listen to that.
It's like, I don't need to do it anymore, because it's like, watch that, and there's your answer. And people come up to me and go, I watched that podcast. And I'm like, okay, great, what did you think? And they just burst out laughing. And I'm like, right, okay, so there, the job is done for me. So I don't have to start going, oh, no, I didn't say that. Because it's like, you've done it yourself, pal.
You're better at that stuff than me. You're less sensitive than me.
It's like, yeah, it bothers you, but at the same time, you've got to look at it, Pabs, where it's like people are always going to go for people that are being successful. You know what I mean? If someone's doing something right, people say they're doing it wrong. You know what I mean? If someone's doing things wrong, they also tell them they're doing things wrong. It's a very British thing to do. And basketball is so British in its attitude towards a lot of things that is its downfall.
No exception. Yeah.
And all these dinosaurs that are kicking about the league that have been around forever. It's like, I don't want to sit here going, your days are numbered, guys, because they're probably not. But your days are numbered, man. You know what I mean? It's like, you're going to be around, but there's guys coming up and biting your butts for exposure. We talk about commentators. One of the best commentators out there at the moment, hands down, is Kaz Bullock from Focus Hoops. And what Kaz has done is broken down so many barriers, because obviously in this day and age, we like it that you get women commentating men's game, men's commentating women's games. That is society now, and I love it. But Caroline has come along, and what she does for the sport, especially in Manchester, is unbelievable. Unbelievable. She set the bar high. If you look at a Mystic stream or a Magic stream, before we even say a word, the graphics on the screen, the stats, the information that pops up during the game, that's a game changer. There's nobody else doing that. And she's now getting calls from all kinds of people to do paid commentary work. And I won't be surprised if we see her, doing BBL games at some point, because she is that good. So, the voice of British basketball, might just have to be the voice of fucking Leicester or something. I don't know.
Grant, mate, you got anything on it?
Just love what you both have just said, and obviously I'm a lot newer to this game than you both, and
it's easy to say what's on your mind.
Oh, I will, don't you worry. No, but it's true. Like, I love the fact that you guys invited me on to do this show. Like, I was doing my own thing, and some shows would do better than others. And when you're new to all that, you look at that wee details of, how quickly must you, who's listening to this and that. do you want to know one of the things that stood out to me? One of the first or a couple of Rocks games after I started doing it and the Rocks started sharing it as well, someone came up to me being like, "You're Grant from the podcast. You did the Rocks podcast." And I just said, "You know what, people," and he came up and he said, "I really enjoyed your show." And you know what?
Yeah.
That's one reason if someone wants to listen to me ramble about what Rocks, Johnny Bunyan's 3-point shot in the third quarter against Surrey, great. And if they enjoy it, even better. Like, I never thought anyone would want to listen to my rambling tones. People tend to listen to it now. And it's just enjoyable. And I thank you guys for letting me join the BTR family. And
you're only supposed to be on for one show. Okay.
I think I just haven't left. I just sit already on the stream every night.
It's like Nicholson. I turn up one night and there's this funny little bloke in the corner showing off his Funko Pops.
I think Paul and I just filled in 1 week.
Hang on a minute. Someone with more Funko Pops than me. I'm going to have to put this fucker in his place. And lo and behold, he's part of the family.
There was 2 weeks in a row. It was just Nicholson, me, and Pabs. We called ourselves. We were the B team.
Yeah.
I mean,
fun times.
You know,
my wife is very supportive, but it is so funny. When we started doing this, and I'm out, I used to go to the garage. Sometimes I'd sit in the car, I had a dictaphone, and when I was interviewing some players, I'd put my phone on speaker and I'd hold it up to the dictaphone. And
that's what I was doing at the start.
Yeah, and put that out, and she'd be like, "Oh, who'd you talk to tonight?" And I'd be like, "Oh, so and so, Mike Tark, or I had Parker Jackson Cartwright one night, and this, that, and the other." And then I said, "Well, we're going to do a weekly show, and I'm going to have Ads, because Ads has been on the show a few times when it was the FBB on." She said, "Oh, good. Are you and Ads going to do it?" "Yeah, I'll do me and Ads." And then it was Daz, me, Ads, and Daz, and she's like, "Oh, another one, good." And it's just like over the last, I don't know what, six months.
Yeah.
It was like, who was on the show tonight? Well, it was me, it was Nicholson, it was Grant. Who the fuck's Grant? He's a Scottish guy.
I get that every day in my life. Who the fuck are you?
Well, I mean, the thing is, though, is
but now you're my household names anyway. Your household names. Grant's done this, and
the reason it works so well as well is because there is a big age gap with us all. And the fact that me and Pabs are so old that we were there,
literally generational.
But the funny thing is that the amount of games I've been to where Josh Bett was there as an annoying 8-year-old, and now he's an annoying 30-odd-year-old. You know what I mean? It blows my head off a bit because his memories of stuff are completely different to mine because he was 8 and I was 18. So that's the good thing. But that's also, insane. I don't mind saying it, my finest moment was the fact that 3 days after winning an NBA championship, I had Phil Handy do an interview with me. And a lot of people, a lot of the new generation of fans were like, who's this? And it's because I followed what my heroes were doing as a kid throughout. I know where they're at. So it's like, I've seen Phil go from being, a trainer in the NBA to being an assistant coach on the third row or whatever, to now being a frontline coach with the Lakers. And he's won championships. And, I'll never forget the last thing that he says to me on that show, and I did sound clip it at the time. He just went, "If there's no Manchester Giants, I don't win NBA championships." Because the way he was talking about his career was that it started for him in Manchester because that's where he met Nick Nurse for the first time, and his journey began. Then when we do things with like the shows we did with Dorsey and Scantlebury,
awesome.
You know what I mean? These are some of the greatest players to ever play this game in this country.
I regularly still can't quite get over Colin Irish and Steve Nelson on one show.
Well, listen,
that was phenomenal for me.
One thing that blew my mind.
Top 5 player all time in Colin Irish, and Steve Nelson is just one of the best defenders.
It doesn't make
ever.
sense. Listen, right. I know I keep mentioning his name, and it's because I've seen a bit of him because he's been over for a month with his son for GB stuff. But I'm sat there at Charlton the other day having a drink with Mark Robinson, and we're friends. But I'm like, if you told 18-year-old me that one day you'd be sat, because that guy, I idolised him. You know what I mean? and then to become friends with Tony Dorsey, who I idolised, is just, it blows my head off. But here's the thing, and Mark was laughing about it because people come up to him going, "Are you Mark Robinson?" And he's like, "Yeah." "Oh, I used to come and watch you in the 90s. And he was telling me, like, the Trafford Centre, it was happening, and his son's going, "Who's that?" He's like, "I don't know, someone that saw us play back then. It was a big deal." and you sort of forget that it was a big deal. And these guys were kind of minor celebrities in their cities.
Well,
so
more than that.
for people coming up to Mark 20-odd years later going, "Are you Mark Robinson?" It's like, it shows how big it was and could still be.
Yeah.
So the fact that we've bothered our asses to sort of go through the archives and talk to these guys, because they're our heroes, they're our friends, they're our mentors, they're our peers. You know, they're the people that put the game in the position it got to, is something that I'm really proud of. Because, you know, when you're interviewing Gino Cranbrook's just won an MVP at a cup final, and he says, "Can I do the show next week?" And you're like, of course. When these guys are asking us to come on, which they have done, we know we're doing something right. You remember when Jalen Hayes came on? The next day he texted me, he was like, "Anytime you want me on, I will do it. I love that you guys just talk like it's a conversation."
Yeah. No,
Well, look at the fact we had the other week LVC on all the way from Albania.
And he wanted to come on the next week.
Yeah.
And the next week, and the next week. Yeah, he's been asking when he can come on again, actually.
Yeah, and you know, we've already got 3 medalists from the Commonwealth Games who've agreed
wanted to come on
to do the show.
Well, Orlando's
you know
a returning member. I'm trying to get hold of him, actually.
So, you know, they know who we are. And I'm not saying they all just tune in every week the minute it drops, but, you know, if we tweet that they're in the show, then of course they're going to listen. And they appreciate it. It's like, I feel like I've become pals with Dirk Williams and his wife, and I've never even met them properly, just because of this show. And we're having good banter, you know. And I was like, when you come to Manchester, let me know, and lunch is on me. Yeah, cool. You know what I mean? So it's just like, you know, just one last thing, Pabs. The day that a player comes up and says you show shit is when I'll go, right, okay,
bin it off. Yeah.
No, not bin it off, but think, what's shit about it? Or if someone says, "I like the show, but I hate you ads," you know, it's like, and I know you can't go off one person's comment, but, you know, when you do get feedback, you've got to sort of look at it. And have we really had any bad feedback?
Not specifically.
Well, I mean, we have from people that we've spoken about.
Yeah,
that's because it's that whole thing. If you can't, you know,
stand the heat. Kitchen.
Yeah, exactly.
Listen, I'm not quite at your level of the kind of being friends. I mean, if anyone puts me in touch with Alan Cunningham, I wouldn't know what to say. In fact, I had Alton Bird when we did the FBBL podcast. I had Alton Bird on, and I was genuinely shitting myself. I didn't know what to say to him. I had a list of questions. I mean, but we got into it and it was fine. Like, he was just genuine. He's just an absolute legend. But you're testament to this. When we went to Leicester, you were itching to get on the court at the end of the game. I just wanted to sit. I didn't want to go on the court. To me, these guys are still. But what happens when we do go on the court? What happens? We're having a chat with everyone.
Rob Paternostro comes and starts chatting to us.
Yeah, Pav's good show. Love the show. Yeah.
You know, we start chatting. We even had a conversation with Drew Lasker.
I know, which is insane considering how he's behaved. Yeah.
Like, you just have to look at, like, we know, like, loads of different clubs listen to this. Clubs have reached out, being like, "Yeah, if you want to do your roadshow, come up and happily get you into our games."
Yeah.
So. And that just tells you how much people enjoy our show, how much people enjoy the content that we produce. And
or on the flip side, you get banned from your local club like I did.
Change days are coming, Ad. Change days are coming.
Yeah, you know, for my counterfeit BBL pass, I'll never forget that. Standing there squeaking on it like that. And I was like, yeah, I've spent my weekend making that card just to annoy you, Jamie. Good God, have mercy on my soul.
Oh, fellas. Right. It's 11:15.
This is supposed to be a short one.
It's supposed to be a little short show.
See what I mean? We can't even do a short podcast with that relevant and important. We can't even do a 1 hour podcast. It has to be 2 hours. You know.
Well, I'm going to cue the "I'm on a boat"
time.
music. And thanks for coming on. Congratulations on your silver medal and your trip to the final.
Ice Graphics Grizzlies, man. So
Epic. And
you got a
5
handshake
years.
for them.
a handshake.
Like
No,
Steph Curry.
We just
Series
look
of
at
handshakes.
We just look at each other and go.
Well, good work, sir. Mr. Young, thanks for coming on again.
No worries.
Not outstanding welcome at all.
The full team. I know.
This is the A team now. This is it. It's good stuff. We've missed Io, we've missed Josh, we've missed Mr. Nicholson, but no doubt they will be back, and hopefully for next week, and we'll try and get the
Let me just
remaining
tell you
5 expectations.
Josh Bet is going to be insufferable. He's back. Oh, guys. Oh, so last week I was sat in a cafe with Giannis, and then out of nowhere, Rudy Tomjanovic came in and sat down and started saying to me, "Hey, are you the guy that commentates on the Hapoel Jerusalem game?" And I said, "Yeah."
I hope Josh listens to this.
Josh,
I really do.
You know it's nothing but love. And you are... No, I've said it before. Josh Bet is the man. And long may he commentate British basketball. Basketball. And
well, let's get him in to the British, to BBL.
Yeah.
Exciting times. Right.
I don't know if the BBL could handle Josh.
Well, we'll see. Yeah, cheers, fellas, and thanks everyone for listening. And we'll be back next week. Until then, take it easy. We'll speak to you soon.
Yeah, never